So it doesn't matter what it is, but you need to become obsessed with something, regardless of it is productive or not. Because through this obsession, you will gain real life experience that will teach you things about yourself and about the broader world, right? Especially in today's society, in today's culture, it's easy to get hooked on these very trivial sort of vices. You know, nicotine is super accessible, alcohol is super accessible, and these things aren't exactly good for you. But it's easy to get stuck in that culture of going out on the weekends, working on the weekdays just to live for the weekends. It's a super common mindset. It's like this herd mentality, this sheep mentality that you've probably heard. I'm not calling these people sheep, obviously. The human psyche is much more complex than these labels. But what I can say is that through obsession, you begin slowly to understand that all of these obsessive behaviors, your deep emotional attachment to something is ultimately an escape from something deeper, from something more worthwhile that needs to be addressed. And of course, it's not easy. It'll never be easy to actually handle and face these things yourself. But escapist culture can only sustain you for so long before everything collapses around you. And that's why I say be obsessed, because you get to experience the escapist life, and through that rapid escapism, maybe that will give you the insight to realize, like, maybe I'm not actually enjoying this. Maybe this is just a substitute for something else that I need to fix in my life, and that is where wisdom appears. There's a lot of different interpretations to this sort of philosophy, but there's this idea that your attachment to things is what causes suffering, right? Your emotional attachment to the external world causes internal suffering, especially by today's standards, where American culture is just sort of envious, and it's just sort of this pit of never having enough, always wanting more, rampantly climbing this ladder forever and ever, gaining as much money as you can, gaining as much attention from women as you can. All this shit that actually doesn't matter. It's just sort of an ego boost because of some deeper underlying insecurity. And so if you remove your attachment to these sort of external things and you find peace within yourself, you can essentially no longer suffer. You can be free mentally from the system. And I think that's valuable. I think there's some true value in that, but at the same time, you can't exactly just disassociate from all of these material possessions that you own, from all of these constructs of society. You're still bound to the same metrics that I'm bound to. Where, like, I really wish I could just detach and no longer own, like, a phone or a car. That would be ideal. But there's no way that I would be able to function in society without such resources, and therefore I wouldn't be able to provide for myself or learn about anything. I would just kind of be a drifter. But, you know, maybe I'm obsessed with this whole idea of being trapped in the system, being a slave to these corporations who don't actually care about me. Maybe this is my obsession. And if I end up getting to the point where I work incessantly to try to escape this system, then essentially I become a slave to my own idea of an ideal world. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't be productive for me necessarily. I mean, there's nothing wrong with hard work, but how do I know that I'm not working hard for the wrong reasons, right? A lot of millionaires are depressed. I don't think money is going to fix all my problems. I don't think a lifted, like, status is going to do anything for me. I want something more sustainable than just these external material possessions, these concepts, right? Money is essentially a concept. But, you know, maybe this is a very one-sided sort of take. I mean, I know that there's people who are obsessed with some sort of art form, you know, drawing, programming, writing, and they find deep fulfillment in that exercise, in that art. And personally, I haven't found anything like that in my life, really. And so I don't know what it's like. I don't know that sort of mindset where you're so aligned with an art that you would die for it, basically. And those people are very productive, right? They found something to do, and they have dedicated their entire lives to it. There's a certain amount of respect that yields, right? It's not easy to do something like that, or to find something like that. It also takes an exceptional person. But I am average, like everybody else. I am just an average individual. And like most, I am drifting aimlessly. I am lost. And maybe that's okay. Maybe right now I should just thug it out. Maybe that's the mindset. I don't mean complacency, right? I also haven't attained any spot in my life to be complacent in. I'm still in sort of a state of change. And that's kind of the exciting thing when you're young. Everything is changing, always. But as the clock is ticking and I'm getting older, I'm going to have less time to adapt my route, which is a pretty big thing to fear. Definitely, I don't want to become just a drifter, just complacent in my world. At the same time, I have nothing else really to align myself to. So wherever I end up, I'm essentially going to end up. And that is scary. I don't like that. But maybe in this ideal world, I'll become obsessed with my job, wherever I'm at in life, and I'll be complacent then. And hey, maybe that's not the worst thing. Suppose it depends on who you ask, and I don't even know what I want. I'm not taking a stance, but anything could happen. And I'm going to have to deal with it or change something or, find a way or make a way, I suppose. But we don't really know what that is. So until then, I'm going to be obsessed with being a fucking degenerate loser, essentially. Right? I heard that if you really wanted to change, you would. That's kind of an idea that I've seen thrown around. And most people don't change. It gives me the impression that they don't really want to. But maybe there's some other underlying trauma factor or something. I know that the human psychology is extremely complex, but so that's my takeaway. Become obsessed with something. Reach the depths of degeneracy, reach the depths of productivity, and see how you feel and see how it affects your life. Do it. You have nothing else to lose. Take care now.